Hi guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to share some drawings with you that I've made in October last year, during Inktober to be precise. These 3 drawings were all made with ink. So the first 2 were made with a dip pen and also with a red brush pen. I added the red to highlight some details, but you're gonna see that later on. These were actually the first drawings where I recorded myself while I was drawing. Most people here on YouTube don't seem to record the inking process at all, because it's so easy to get in the way of the camera. Since I started out recording my Inktober drawings, I don't really mind recording myself when inking now. It's certainly easier to record paintings, but these drawings were also a lot of fun to make. The main challenge for me during Inktober wasn't really the inking. It was coming up with new ideas every single day. I wasn't really using a prompt list and I just drew whatever I felt like. And sometimes these were really random things, and other times they sort of came all together into a coherent thing. And these 3 drawings that I'm sharing today are connected. They have 2 common themes. One is that they're all set in Buenos Aires, and the other one is that they're all a little bit creepy, perhaps? Well, not very creepy, but a little bit. More like cute creepy, if that's a thing. And well, Argentina always had a special place in my heart. I used to dance a lot of tango, and it always was my dream to visit Argentina one day. By now, I've been there twice for like a month each. And it was one of those places where you arrive and you instantly feel at home. The city is a bit of a mad place. There is lots of traffic and it's very confusing. The public transport is also very strange and it's very hard to find your way around. The buses are always crowded, and also going by cab is always an adventure because the cab drivers drive like mad usually. The architecture is also really strange. It's one of those places where it's not really planned out all that much. There are very old buildings next to very new and modern buildings, and it's a huge mess, the whole city. But these old buildings, I really like them, and I really like to draw them too, and this is what I wanted to do for these drawings. Just draw some buildings from Buenos Aires. And of course I wouldn't draw the modern ones, so I just had a look on Google Maps. I was basically driving around, so to speak, on Google Maps until I found a street where there were a couple of buildings that I liked. So the buildings you see here actually do exist, and I just found them somewhere and decided to draw them from a screenshot from Google Street View. The perspective is of course different. I had to extrapolate from the screenshot. It wasn't just a straight copy. Of course, on Street View there were no ghosts in the trees, and actually the trees weren't there either. I also decided to add a dog to the picture, and he was actually drawn from imagination. I think he turned out really cute. He's actually one of those details that makes this a very Argentinian scene. There are so many street dogs in Argentina, it's kind of amazing. Sometimes you see a lot of them hanging around in tourist areas, trying to get scraps from the table and so on and so forth. They definitely seem to get by alright. The dog I drew definitely had a comfy spot there and even a bowl, so maybe he's not quite a stray. But then, would you really let him sleep outside? I don't really know. I don't know what his story is. He's just outside, and I think he might be picking up on whatever is going on in the trees there. I don't really know whether the ghosts are friendly or creepy, or... In any case, the dog is sort of uncomfortable with them, no matter whether they're friendly or not. I'm still a little undecided whether he can actually see them, but I guess he definitely feels their presence. Maybe you've known dogs or cats who've behaved in strange ways as if there was something going on that you don't quite understand. And this is definitely one of those situations where the dog might feel something that we don't really see ourselves. I like that idea of the haunted city where we don't really know that there are ghosts there, but the dogs know. And so I decided that I wanted to make another drawing in that same spirit, and actually probably with one of the same dogs basically. There are 2 dogs in this drawing, and both of them are running like mad from the ghosts. And I've definitely seen that, just some stray dogs running like mad for no particular reason whatsoever, or at least none that I could figure out. And them perceiving something that we don't might actually be a possibility. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Now, the ghosts in this drawing, it's still unclear whether they're friendly or not. Maybe they're just like us and seek out the comfort of dogs when they're feeling down. So it's just that the dogs feel uncomfortable with them, which is of course a problem if they are the only ones who can make you happy. Oh, now I'm feeling a bit sad for the ghosts. I definitely don't get the vibe that the dogs are in danger here. I think it's just one of those moments where feelings aren't quite mutual. One thing I like about this drawing is that there's something here that you only know if you know the backstory of the drawing. The buildings I picked for this drawing are actually in the neighborhood of the buildings from the other drawing, so people who know this neighborhood will recognize it and probably make the connection that the dogs, or at least one of them, is the same as in the other drawing. I like that this drawing can stand on its own, but at the same time it has a connection if you know the other drawing, which is really cool. The style and the materials are also the same, so the connection is quite obvious when you see them next to each other, which is sort of impossible because they're in the same sketchbook and you can't really put them next to each other. Here in the video it's quite obvious though. With drawings of buildings, the main problem is always the straight lines, and in this case there are so many of them. This really took me quite a while to finish. It's really not all that surprising that after Inktober I felt sort of a little burnt out. I had to come up with a new idea every day and then put it into practice, which wasn't always straightforward. In this case it also took a long time because there were so many details. And well, after doing that for a month, you kind of feel like you spent all your ideas in one go. Basically, with Inktober I learned that finishing pieces every single day is a bit too much for me. I might be able to draw every day, after all I've been doing that for more than 320 days by now, but finishing a piece every day, that's a bit much. I managed to finish Inktober actually, but I'm definitely not in a hurry to repeat the experience, and I think doing it once a year for a month, every single day a new piece, is sort of doable, but not really something I would want to do for a whole year. No. The only rule for my own drawing challenge, the 365 days drawing challenge I'm involved in right now, is that I simply have to draw every day, and it doesn't really matter how much. It can be a little drawing in some corner of a piece of paper somewhere, or it can be a full painting. It really doesn't matter. The only important thing is that I draw every single day, and in 320 days I haven't missed a single day so far, which is not bad, I have to say. I definitely think that drawing challenges are really helpful in improving your skills. I have improved lots and lots during my challenge, and also during Inktober. Definitely, if you want to improve, that's definitely the way to go. But if you're not really in a position that you can put a lot of time into such challenges, it might be a little bit much, I have to say. There's definitely a risk of burning out. You may run out of ideas of what to draw, or you might get sick and tired of drawing altogether. And that's really not the aim of such a challenge. You want to build a drawing habit with this kind of thing, and for that it has to be fun. So my main advice for drawing challenges like that is, well, you want to take them seriously, but not too seriously. If it's hurting you, if it's making you ill, if it's making you feel that you don't want to draw anymore, then that's wrong and you should stop. I mean, really, what's the point if you ruin all your fun that you have with drawing? Only drawing once a week may not be enough, but it's better than taking a break for a year or more because you got so disenchanted with it all. Lots of people give up on daily drawing challenges like Inktober, and that's perfectly alright. If it's not helping you, then you shouldn't be doing it. Well, in my case, it is helping me a lot, my daily drawing challenge that I'm still involved in. And also Inktober helped me tons to improve my inking skills. One of my goals was to improve my dip pen skills, and it definitely helped to be doing all these drawings, especially the first two in this case, with all the detail. They were really helpful to improve all my dip pen skills. The other thing I wanted to practice was ink wash. And this is how I approached this last drawing. It's more like a painting actually. I think I drew the cat with a micron pen, but since I didn't record that part, I really don't remember. One cool thing you might not know about the tree is that it isn't a tree, it's an ombu. And that's a really strange plant. It's actually a bush. It looks like a tree, but when one of the branches touches the ground, it grows out roots again. So that's really cool. Not a tree, and yet it looks like a tree. Very interesting. They also have this sort of ominous, creepy feel, so they fit nicely into this series of little creepy drawings. In this case, I think the ombu is actually scared of the cat. The cat is climbing the ombu, and with all the sharp claws and all that, I can't really think that that's very pleasant. Or maybe that's ticklish, who knows. In any case, I really enjoyed how this one turned out. It was lots of fun to make, and well, it took lots of layers to get to a point where I thought it was finally finished. Without line work, it's not always easy to determine when a piece is finished. In this case, I just built it up and built it up and built it up until it was a night scene, and that was what I had in mind when I started the drawing. One scary thing about ink is that it doesn't really lift. It's not like watercolor where you can correct mistakes if you make them. So you better go in with thinner layers than with watercolors. Well, some people also layer a lot with watercolors, but I'm not one of them, I think. With this painting, I definitely lost track of how many times I went over it in the end, and I also haven't counted while I was editing this video. I don't know, and it doesn't really matter, it was just a bit more than I really wanted, to be honest. I'm not a particularly patient person, so when there's too much layering involved, at some point I just wanted to stop. So I think in the final layers I went in a bit thicker than before, because I just wanted to have a bit of a shortcut. I don't know. It did turn out fine though, so I think it was a good strategy in the end. I definitely prefer making such mostly monochrome studies with watercolor, and I probably would have used Payne's Grey for this if I hadn't done it in ink. But well, it was Inktober, so it had to be ink. There was one final detail for which I used the dip pen, and that was the street lamp. I also added a bit of yellow ink after I turned the camera off, so in the final view you're gonna see that. Well, I hope you enjoyed these 3 drawings, and I think the combination of cute animals and creepy ghosts and strange, scared trees that are not trees was kinda interesting. I quite enjoyed it. Maybe you did too. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. Both definitely help with this YouTube algorithm thing that I keep reading about. So hit that like and subscribe if you feel so inclined. It always makes me feel a bit silly for saying it, but it does help, so... Well, in any case, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon for another video. Bye!